Good morning, you're listening to the brief wake up, your mindful start to the day. I'm Handel, your daily coffee companion, helping you wake up informed, thoughtful, and maybe just a little amused before the day gets old. If you're commuting, corralling kids, or just standing in line for caffeine, you're in the right place. Let's get you caught up. After a bout of the common cold, we are back. And as usual, let's start with health and talk about something deceptively simple: how you sleep. There's a classic idea, going all the way back to The Princess and the Pea, that discomfort in bed comes from something external: a lump, a mattress, a detail you can't quite see. But modern sleep science suggests something more practical. It may be less about what you're lying on and more about how you're lying. So what's the best sleep position? According to sleep experts, there isn't a single answer. Instead, it comes down to three core variables: airway, breathing, and circulation. Let's start with sleeping on your back. If your head and neck are properly supported in a neutral position, this can actually be one of the most efficient ways to sleep. It keeps your airway open and allows for smooth, unobstructed breathing. But, and this is critical, that changes completely if you have sleep apnea. In that setting, lying on your back can allow the tongue to fall backward, partially blocking the airway and worsening breathing interruptions throughout the night. Now, side sleeping. This is where things get interesting. Sleeping on your right side may improve circulation and reduce pressure on the heart. Sleeping on your left side, however, appears to enhance activity in the glymphatic system, a network that clears metabolic waste from the brain during sleep, including proteins linked to neurodegenerative disease. But even here, positioning matters. A more neutral, straight alignment supports the spine, while an overly curled fetal position can compress the chest and subtly restrict breathing. And then there's the bigger picture. Your body is not static during sleep. Everyone moves. The goal is not to lock yourself into one perfect position. It's to start in a position that allows your body to settle into efficient breathing and alignment, without excessive repositioning. Because frequent movement during the night often isn't random. It's a signal that something isn't optimized, whether it's airway, pressure points, or spinal alignment. So the practical adjustments are simple: a pillow between the knees for side sleepers, a pillow under the knees for back sleepers, and for stomach sleepers, support under the hips to reduce spinal strain. At a systems level, sleep position isn't about perfection, it's about physiology. You're optimizing airflow, circulation, and structural alignment at the same time. And when those systems are aligned, sleep stops being something you chase and becomes something your body can actually do. The news is next. This morning, the global picture is tightening, and not in a stable way. In the Middle East, the conflict centered around Iran is entering a more dangerous phase. The United States is increasing its troop presence, while Iran is signaling it's prepared for direct ground confrontation, even as both sides continue to reference negotiations. That combination, military buildup paired with diplomatic language, often reflects a conflict that's not cooling, but calibrating. At the same time, the battlefield is widening. Iran-backed Houthis launched a missile toward Israel from Yemen, extending the conflict's reach and raising concerns about disruption to critical global shipping lanes. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has indicated that Israel will expand its ground operations into southern Lebanon. Another signal that this is no longer a contained conflict, but a regional one in motion. The economic implications are already surfacing. Prolonged instability in this region puts pressure on energy markets and global trade routes, and after a month of fighting, there's still no clear exit path. Back in the US, pressure is building on multiple fronts. The Department of Homeland Security funding lapse has now stretched to 44 days, the longest shutdown in U.S. history, underscoring a persistent gridlock in Washington. At the same time, protests continue across the country under the No Kings banner, reflecting a growing public response to executive authority and policy direction. There's also a legal battle taking shape. The Trump administration is leaning on an 1884 Supreme Court ruling in an effort to challenge birthright citizenship, a strategy many legal scholars say rests on unstable ground. And inside the administration, movement continues, with Corey Lewandowski stepping away from his advisory role, marking another shift in an already fluid political environment. What you're seeing is pressure building in parallel systems, geopolitical, economic, and domestic, all at once. When multiple systems destabilize simultaneously, the risk isn't just escalation, it's misalignment, where decisions in one arena amplify consequences in another. And right now, both globally and at home, there's very little margin for error. The big sip is next. Last episode, we broke down the myths surrounding IQ, what it can tell us and what it can't. Now we arrive at a natural extension of that question. If IQ measures cognitive intelligence, what about emotional intelligence? What people often refer to as EQ. Emotional intelligence is typically defined as the ability to perceive, understand, regulate, and respond to emotions, both your own and those of others. Where IQ is about processing information, EQ is about processing people. It includes things like emotional awareness, impulse control, empathy, social perception, and the ability to navigate complex interpersonal dynamics. And unlike IQ, which is relatively stable across adulthood, emotional intelligence is far more dynamic. It can be developed. That's one of the key distinctions. Skills like recognizing emotional patterns, regulating stress responses, improving communication, and reading social cues can all be trained through experience, reflection, and deliberate practice. You see this clinically and operationally. People become better at managing conflict, better at reading a room, better at responding instead of reacting. Now, can EQ be measured the same way IQ is? Not exactly. IQ is designed to be highly standardized, controlled testing environments, clear right and wrong answers, strong statistical reliability. Emotional intelligence is more complex. There are assessment tools, but they tend to be less precise and more context dependent. Measuring how someone performs on a structured test is very different from measuring how they navigate a real conversation, a stressful moment, or a high-stakes decision involving other people. So while IQ gives you a clean number, EQ is better understood as a set of capabilities expressed over time. And this is where the distinction becomes practical. Because in real-world environments, especially leadership, IQ and EQ are not competing traits. They're complementary. IQ helps you analyze problems, identify patterns, and make technically sound decisions. EQ determines whether those decisions are accepted, communicated effectively, and executed within a team. You can have a highly intelligent individual who struggles to lead because they can't regulate emotion, build trust, or navigate interpersonal friction. And you can have someone with strong emotional intelligence who creates cohesion, alignment, and resilience, even if they're not the highest cognitive performer in the room. The most effective leaders tend to sit at the intersection. They can think clearly under pressure, and they can manage people under pressure. So the key takeaway is this: IQ determines how efficiently you solve problems. EQ determines how effectively you operate with people while solving them. And in most real-world systems, especially complex ones, you need both. because intelligence may help you arrive at the answer, but emotional intelligence determines whether anyone follows you there. That's the big sip. The lighter roast is next. Lighter roast time. Let's talk about parenting styles, because nothing reveals adult personality faster than how someone packs a lunchbox. First up, the classic, the tiger parent. This is the household where a B+ is considered a cry for help from the parent. Piano lessons, math tutoring, language immersion, all before dinner. These kids don't play, they optimize. Highly effective? Sometimes. Relaxing childhood? Not even remotely. Then you have the helicopter parent, always hovering, always circling, always asking, did you bring a jacket? Even when it's 85 degrees. These parents don't raise kids, they manage operations. Group projects? They're basically co-authors. Teacher emails? Responded to within 90 seconds. The child never falls, but also never really learns how to land. Next, the snowplow parent. This one doesn't hover, they clear. Every obstacle is removed before the child even sees it. Bad grade, email sent. Conflict with another kid, meeting scheduled. Coach didn't play them enough. That coach is about to get a TED Talk. The path is perfectly smooth. The problem is, life isn't. Then there's the free-range parent. Minimal intervention, maximum independence. These kids are 8 years old, making their own breakfast, walking to the store, possibly running a small side business. Meanwhile, the parent is somewhere saying, they'll figure it out. And to be fair, they often do. The upside, independence. The downside, occasionally, chaos with confidence. And now the newer model, the panda parent. Balanced, present, not controlling. This is the parent who says, try it yourself first. I'm here if you need me. They allow mistakes, but not neglect. They guide without grabbing the wheel. It's less about raising a perfect child and more about raising a capable one. Because here's the reality. Every parenting style is trying to solve the same problem. How do you prepare someone for a world you can't control? Some push, some protect, some step back. But the ones that seem to work best over time don't remove the challenge. They prepare the child to handle it. That's your lighter roast. Our commemoration is next. Today, March 30th, marks a convergence of memory, resistance, and cultural impact across very different chapters of history. We begin with Land Day, first observed in 1976, when Palestinian citizens protested land expropriation in Israel. What followed were clashes that left 6 people dead and many more injured. Decades later, Land Day remains a symbol, not just of protest, but of identity, land, and the enduring tensions tied to both. Today also marks the anniversary of the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan in 1981. Just weeks into his presidency, Reagan was shot outside a Washington hotel, an event that tested the resilience of leadership under sudden crisis and reshaped how presidential security is approached. And in culture, March 30th is the birthday of Eric Clapton, whose sound helped define modern blues and rock and influenced generations of musicians that followed. It's also the birthday of Vincent van Gogh, an artist whose work went largely unrecognized during his lifetime, only to later become some of the most influential in history, a reminder that impact isn't always immediate. And in a quieter note, today is National Pencil Day in the United States, marking the 1858 patent of the modern pencil, a simple tool that has carried ideas from mind to page for generations. Different moments, different scales, but all connected by the same thread: how ideas, actions, and expression leave marks that last far beyond a single day. Today's through line is alignment, whether it's systems under pressure, the body at rest, or the mind in motion. From global instability to how we sleep, think, lead, and raise the next generation, the signal is the same. Outcomes improve when systems are balanced, not forced. And in a world that's constantly shifting, the real advantage isn't control, it's the ability to adapt with clarity. This is Dr. Robinson for the brief wake up. Stay calm, kind, and curious. Catch you next time.